Welcome back, everyone. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're unpacking an absolutely mind-bending explainer on a wildly dark, highly calculated strategy known simply as Yayoi's plan. Now look, on the surface, the whole vibe seems, well, completely innocent. We're talking about fluffy children's toys here. But as you're gonna see, the reality underneath is literally a masterclass in supernatural strategy. If you're a fan of deep diving into complex, multi-layered plans where absolutely nothing is what it seems, you are in the exact right place. Let's get into it.
Why are there dozens of plush bears on the walls? It's a genuinely bizarre image, right? When Kitaro is first brought into Yayoi's room, instead of, typical bedroom decor, the walls are entirely plastered with these hanging plush toys. It creates this immediate, jarring contrast. On one hand, you've got the ultimate universal symbol of childhood comfort, the teddy bear. But on the other hand, there's this overwhelming, almost obsessive quality of them, strung up in a way that just feels unnerving. We really have to ask ourselves, what is the actual function of these bears? Because I promise you, they absolutely aren't there for decoration.
Which brings us right to Section 1, the room of plush bears, innocent toys or dark cages.
So, the crucial point is, when Yayoi shows off this room, she isn't just flaunting a cute collection. It's the literal engine room of a massive supernatural operation. First off, just look at the sheer volume. Dozens of bears hanging everywhere. But points 2 and 3 are where the horror really hits you. These bears act as vessels. They function as literal cages for captured spirits. You see, Yayoi hasn't been collecting toys, she's been hunting. Every single bear on that wall represents a supernatural entity that got caught and forcibly stuffed inside a fluffy, completely innocent-looking shell. It is a high-security paranormal prison disguised as a kid's playroom. But holding them captive? That's not the endgame. It's just the setup for something way, way darker.
So, what actually happens to the spirits trapped inside these fluffy little cages? Let's jump into Section 2, the Kodoku Ritual, a battle for survival. Kodokuno, it's essentially a supernatural battle royale. This is a method where captured, highly dangerous spirits are forced to fight each other to the absolute death just to survive. Think about the mechanics of this for a second. You take incredibly aggressive entities, lock them all together in tight quarters, and engineer an environment where only the absolute strongest makes it out alive. It's basically supernatural Darwinism, and Yayoi specifically targets strong ghosts for this. She doesn't care about the weak ones. She's curating this brutal gladiator arena where the combatants are already top-tier threats, and then she forces them to literally tear each other apart.
Let's move to Andai and see how this builds across a logical timeline. Step 1. Gather strong ghosts. That's the hunting phase. Step 2. Trap them in the bears. The imprisonment phase we just talked about. Step 3. The battle royale. The Kodoku ritual where they fight for survival. And finally, Step 4. Create a super spirit. You see, Yayoi isn't just acting on some chaotic impulse here. She's engineered a full-blown industrial pipeline for harvesting supernatural power. The plush bears, they're just the incubators for this incredibly calculated process.
Which naturally leads us to the final output of this terrifying pipeline. Section 3, Birth of the Super Spirit, the result of brutal selection.
If you throw dozens of immensely powerful ghosts into a supernatural meat grinder, what exactly steps out the other side? Notice the stark contrast we have here. Over on the left, we've got specific magic, stuff like telekinesis or invisibility. But Yayoi isn't trying to create a ghost with a neat little utility belt of parlor tricks. No. Instead, over on the right, we are looking at cumulative divine power. This is entirely about raw, accumulated strength ripped from the fallen. The super spirit's power is an aggregate. It literally carries the sheer, concentrated brute force of every single spirit it had to destroy to survive the Kodoku ritual.
Because of this brutal gauntlet, the surviving spirit possesses exceptional power, far, far surpassing ordinary ghosts. Honestly, it isn't even just one ghost anymore, is it? It's this concentrated, distilled essence of dozens of top-tier spirits crammed into a single entity. This power reaches a level that is basically divine in its scale. It's a being of unparalleled supernatural mass born entirely out of violence and survival. But why? Why go through the unimaginable danger of capturing these things, forcing this gruesome ritual, and engineering a literal supernatural weapon of mass destruction?
That brings us to our final section, which uncovers the ultimate why driving this entire horrifying process. Section 4, Revenge against the Deity, Yayoi's true motive.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that for all the cold, deeply calculated occult mechanics we've been looking at, the foundation is tragically human. The ultimate goal here, to defeat the god who stole her mother's soul. Suddenly, that creepy room full of plush bears isn't just a weird laboratory, it's an armory. Yayoi isn't just some power-hungry kid. She's a grieving daughter driven by an impossible, heartbreaking loss. A deity, a literal god, took her mother's soul. So how on earth does a human fight a god? By using the Kodoku ritual to build a weapon strong enough to rival divine power itself. Every single spirit trapped, every brutal battle fought inside those stuffed bears is driven entirely by this singular, burning desire for revenge.
The sheer scale of the stakes here are laid out perfectly in this quote. Possessing incredible power, this being must help Yayoi defeat the god. The super spirit isn't a pet. It isn't just some twisted trophy of her occult skills. It is a drafted soldier in a literal, all-out war against a deity. Yayoi took a hard look at the hierarchy of the universe, realized she was completely outmatched by the divine, and basically decided to hack the system by forcefully combining the strength of the dead to fight back.
Which leaves us with the ultimate, chilling question. Will this accumulated rage be enough to crush a god? We've walked through the mechanics together, right? The innocent-looking bear cages, the absolutely brutal Kodoku Battle Royale, and the birth of a super spirit fueled by pure cumulative power. It is an absolute masterpiece of dark strategy, born entirely from profound grief. But when the dust finally settles, can a weapon forged from the spirits of the dead actually strike down the divine? It's a wild thought to end on, and one that really forces us to rethink the limits of sheer human determination. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep analyzing, keep asking those big questions, and I'll see you next time as we decode another fascinating topic.